Mike Briggs is our cattle market analyst this week. We talked with Mike on a windy and rainy Wednesday morning about U.S. beef demand, his outlook on corn prices, the effects of ongoing drought, and how the month of April has treated the feedlot industry.
Pretty darn good so far. You know, weather's held in there, the market's held in there, margins are excellent. You know, people are always asking me what this market's been like, and said, you know, the past 2 years were the worst I've ever seen, and probably the worst some guys that have been in there for 40 years ever seen, and now it's the best I've ever seen. It's incredible.
What would get the ball rolling in either direction, either moving it higher or moving it lower?
I think a lot of it's going to be cattle supplies. The economy is always a factor. I think it's going to be interesting to see as we go forward here. We took a little dip in the beef market. We took a little dip in the cattle market compared to the high. Typically, you have a seasonal that goes down now, but you've already seen the beef market start to catch, and we're going to be staring Memorial Day right in front of us here pretty quick, and that's your biggest beef holiday of the year. So it's going to be really interesting if we can turn this thing back around and get back to old highs, or maybe make new highs. If you have some pent-up demand in the east, and I know that retailers haven't been buying out very far, which why would you with these prices, but they get caught short bought, and this thing could get real interesting maybe for a short period of time.
Packers still need to fill, you think, going forward?
I'm afraid so. I don't think they're sold out in front very long. I just can't see very many retailers wanting to take that step with this price.
With the margins where they are right now, has time in the feedlot changed in terms of how much weight you're putting on these animals?
Great question. I read a lot of these letters from all the big shots that ride them, and oh, the people can't be current because the weights are so big. What they've totally missed is we've had an excellent winter. Every year your genetics get better. These cattle have a better ability to gain faster and get bigger, and that's what they're doing. We had perfect weather. It was dry. I know it was cold, but it was dry. The cattle performance is tremendous. So these cattle are at market-ready weights. They don't have a lot of finish on them, but everybody's selling them as fast as they can because, one, we know what the seasonal is. The seasonal is typically to go down. The cattle are making a lot of money. You're just being greedy if you're holding them.
Last month when we talked, you had started to price some cattle. What's the difference now between the cash and the board?
You still have the cash at a premium to the board, which is great for the market because that's going to keep cattle moving. It'll keep people from holding cattle, and that's always a sign of a really bullish market. I know we're going to lose some of that basis. We already have lost some of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we sell cattle at overs indefinitely. I just wouldn't, because I think the supply is going to be tight enough, and unless you see something change where you start to see funds just come rushing into the long side of this thing and try to drive it up equal to cash, it's not going to happen.
Futures market corn is around $5, obviously less than that if you're buying locally. What are your expectations going through May?
I still think we're going to get the crop planted, and once everybody's decided that the crop either is going to get planted or has gotten planted, I don't think there's any way for this thing but down unless you run into a dryness situation, which we're not very far off from that in the western corn belt here. You know, they talk about El Nino, and if El Nino does occur, that's going to take care of the drought in the area, so that'll be nice.
You look at the talk of herd expansion, and now it's starting to be tempered a little bit. 90% of Nebraska is in drought, 100% of Kansas is in drought, over 80% of Texas is in drought, with a lot of it in the Panhandle. You know, if that's a realistic possibility that herd expansion isn't going to be what we thought it was, what does that mean for sustained profits in this industry?
Great question. I think once again that ratchets feeder cattle price up again because you're still going to have demand there. The demand is going to be strong, unlike the last 2 years where you weren't making any money, so you weren't really chasing those things. Guys are making good money. They're going to keep chasing those cattle. And that's going to be really detrimental in a lot of ways. That keeps beef too high for the customers or keeps it at a very high price, which concerns me. I want to see herd expansion because I don't want to see that happen to the ranchers. The climate has got to change. We've got to have a change in this drought thing, but until you do, you can't have herd expansion in any shape or form because it especially needs to happen in Texas.